Hi, welcome back everyone. My name's Crystal. What we're going to do today is 2 buttercream cakes made for Valentine's Day. So why don't we start? So for our first one, we're going to do a red velvet cake, which we have right here, and we're going to top it with vanilla buttercream. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut all the domes off these cakes. So I'm going to get my cake knife and I'm going to squat down at eye level. And I barely need to make a cut for these. There's not much of a dome, but I'm just going to make sure it's nice and flat. So I'm just trimming off the top. And then I'm going to put the cake top aside and then get my next layer and do the same thing. Just cutting off the very top. And my last layer. Like so. So I have all my layers cut and I have my gold cardboard and the turntable. So what we're going to do first is get a little bit of the vanilla buttercream on the tip of my spatula and put it right in the center of the cardboard. Now, if you need to learn how to make Italian meringue buttercream, we'll provide the link. So I'm going to put the first layer of cake down and just make sure everything is centered. So I just spin the turntable and make sure it's not going like this. So everything's nice and center. So I'm going to put my first great big heaping spoonful of buttercream right on top. You want to use a fair amount of buttercream between your layers because you don't want really thin amount of buttercream. We usually do about 1/4 of an inch thick. So on our Halloween mummy cake, we show you how to do a buttercream cake from start to finish. So if you need to watch that for a bit of a refresher, but I'll just describe what I'm doing as well when I'm making this. So I'm doing the Miss America wave and I'm going back and forth and putting a fair amount of pressure downwards. And now what I'm going to do is level off the top. And you just want to make sure you keep the spatula right in the center so everything is nice and even. And you want to make sure as well that you have some buttercream going around the sides because it'll just help you do your sides when you're ready for that. So now I'm going to put my next layer on. You want to make sure that they're right on top of each other so you don't have a crooked cake. And I'm just going to scoop my buttercream again. So same process. Put some buttercream on, start in the center, and I'm just doing that very nice side-to-side motion and keeping my spatula parallel to the cake and the tip of the spatula in the center. And then I'm going to smooth it out and take off some of the excess. And now for my last layer, I like to put this sealed layer on top because it doesn't have as much of a crumb if I went like that. It crumbs a little bit, but if I do that on this side, it doesn't have as much of a crumb action. All right, so now for the top, I don't need quite as much. I do usually put a fair amount on anyway. And I'm going to do the same thing, Miss America wave, and spin the turntable. I'm not going to level it out or take off some of the excess until I do my sides so I can get the top corners of my cake nice and even. So we're going to do the sides now. We have some buttercream piling over the edge. That's great, but we still want to add some more because we just want to make sure we don't get any crumbs showing. There's a crumb happening right here, but it'll get pushed back into the cake. So I have some buttercream at the tip of my spatula. You don't want it traveling up, so you just want to keep your spatula pretty clean. I'm going to go all the way down at the bottom, and I press the buttercream into the cake and do the Miss America wave. I'm only going to use a little bit of buttercream and just small sections at a time, so I'm not thinning out the buttercream too much. All right, so the bottom is all covered. Now I'm going to go back and do the top. I might add a little bit more to the top because there's a little bit less that I added to the very top of the cake. So that way I know it's fairly even. All right, so now I can take my spatula and clean off the edge. And I'm just gonna go around with the fuller length of my spatula and get rid of some of this excess. I don't need to do this obsessively because my next step, I will use the comb to get rid of the excess and put a nice design around the bottom. So before I do anything else, I'm going to level out the top. So I'm going to make the top nice and smooth. I'm just holding my spatula at a 45-degree angle. And then I just go back in with these top corners and squish them back inwards. And we'll be able to get rid of some of these peaks and crags at the end. All right, so I'm all done with my spatula for now. I have my cake comb that we use a lot in the store here. So I'm going to use this side. It's kind of like a fun bubbly side. And I'm going to hold it in my dominant hand. And I'm going to hold it at a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to just apply it to the cake. And what I'm doing is spinning the turntable nice and evenly with the same amount of speed and pressure. And I'm holding the comb with the same amount of pressure in my hand. So it takes a few spins to get it really even. I'm gonna take the corner of my comb and get rid of some of these extra bits. And we'll be able to clean up the bottom of the cardboard when we're all done. Okay. So let's go back and we're just gonna put a very light pressure and make this pattern nice and smooth. And so that way we see very few little air pockets and divots. So I wanna make it as smooth as possible. Okay. Okay, so the sides are complete. I don't need my comb anymore. So what I'm gonna do, the last part of putting buttercream on the cake, I'm just gonna clean off the spatula as much as I can on the side of the bowl. And I'm gonna go in at a slight angle, or really a 45-degree angle, and then push this buttercream to the center and then wipe it off. You'll get a little bit hanging on. And you just want to do that every time so you're not wiping the same buttercream back onto the cake. A super smooth top will help us do our stencil. So we're going to use a heart-shaped cookie cutter and then place it in the middle and add sprinkles on top. Then remove the cookie cutter and there'll be a heart-shaped sprinkle decoration. What do I call it? Element. Okay, so we're ready to decorate this cake. So it's gonna be super fun. The first thing I'm gonna do is just get a pretty big sized heart cookie cutter, and I'm gonna place it right in the center. And don't be afraid to kind of squish it down slightly. That'll just help with the shape. And then I have some Valentine's Day colored sprinkles. You can also use rainbow nonpareils. Anything fairly small. You don't want to get them too chunky. And so I'm just gonna take the sprinkles and start filling in this heart. So I don't want to overfill it, so when I remove the cookie cutter, the sprinkles fall out and it's not really a crisp shape. But I want to make sure there's enough on there that it starts to look good. Oh, you'll get a few a few stray sprinkles, but that's okay. All right. So now it's the moment of truth. Yay! Okay, so we have our heart now. And I'm just gonna give this cake a trim. So I have some pink buttercream in a rosette tip. And what I'm gonna do is just do a basic trim. We call it the up-down swirl. So I'm just gonna go make a swirl and then do the opposite one. Just go up and down. And I'm not stopping the turntable the best I can. Oop. There. So that looks really pretty. Okay, so now I'm going to do the bottom, and I'm just going to do the same pattern on the bottom of the cake. There. And for the very last thing, I'm going to get some tweezers and get rid of these 2 little stray sprinkles. Ooh, well, it's off the cake. That's all that matters. And we're all done. It's really cute. Okay. So for our second cake, we're gonna add some color on the outside. So I've already creme coated the cake. So I cut the layers, put buttercream in between, and put a thin amount of buttercream on the outside, and then put it in the refrigerator. So it'll be a lot easier to add buttercream onto the outside of the cake. And then what we're gonna do as our decoration is these really cute pennant banners. So I have these sticks here. They're bamboo skewers, and I painted them white. And I'll go over that when we get to that point. So what we're gonna do, I have some of this light purple. I'm gonna put this on the very top, and then get a clean spatula, and just make sure it's all in the center. And then do our Miss America wave on top, and spread that out. Next, I'm gonna add purple to the top. What I'm going to do is add white at the bottom, and then when we go to comb the cake, we're actually going to make it smooth. It will kind of blend together, so it'll have like an ombre effect. It'll be really pretty. So just to the top. All right, and now I'm going to add some more white to the bottom. So you'll get a little bit of purple onto your spatula. So just wipe it off into the purple container. So that way you're not making all of your white buttercream purple. So just check your spatula every time you go back in to dip it. All right, so instead of using a comb, I'm just gonna use the dough cutter. So that way this is nice and smooth. You could also use a comb as well. So before I use the dough cutter, I'm going to just level this out. Okay. So now I'm going to use the dough cutter. And again, 45-degree angle. And I'm just going to spin this. I just want to get it as smooth as possible. So that looks really cool, actually. I'm just going to scrape that back into the container. And go at it again with a little bit less pressure. Yeah, you don't want to also scrape off too much because then it's a pain to put the color back on. So you just got to be careful. So I have a little bit of white showing through there, but I'm fine with this. So we just want to get rid of these top peaks. Swipe to the middle, then wipe it off. And repeat. So I'm going to put some swag around the cake, which means it's like bunting or like streamers. So it's the same rose tip again, but this one's a little bit smaller. And I'm just going to do U shapes around the cake. And I tend to do them a little bit on the smaller side. If you do them too big, they're more likely to fall apart. So the fat side is going to be against the cake and the skinny side out and away. So it has that nice kind of like petal-like consistency. And I'm going to squeeze and then make a U shape that way. And then what I'm going to do to cover up the seams, I'm just going to squeeze this and make like a little carrot shape, I guess. And that looks cute to end it. So what we're going to do next, we're going to make our little banner holder. So I just got some wooden bamboo skewers like you would for a barbecue. And they're a little over a foot long, I think. And what I did was I used some white food coloring, and I just painted it white. So I'm going to stick them into the cake fairly far apart, but I don't want it so close to the edge that it might go through the cake, and you'll see it on the side. So I'm just going to stick one down like that. All right, and then the next one, you want to make sure you go all the way down the cardboard so it's nice and supported. So the next thing I'm going to do, I have some baker's twine. I'm going to tie one side down, and I measured it to be about 16 inches. You won't need all of this length, but it's better to have too much and then trim it than not enough and have to do it again. So you just want to make sure you hold the excess in your hands so it's not dropping onto the cake. And then tie it in a knot. And now for this other side, you don't want it like super taut. You want to give it a nice like a U shape so that way it just looks cuter. And you'll have a little bit more room to add your banners. So I'm going to loop it around a couple times. All right, and now I'm going to cut off the excess almost down to where the knot ends, because I'm going to add some bows. So I have some extra pieces. So I'm just going to loop it on to the top, tie a knot, and then tie a bow like you would be tying a shoe. So we're going to add the pennants. I'm just going to do 4 of them, and I'm thinking of writing like XOXO on it. All right, so I have some pink fondant, and I'm going to roll this out nice and thin on the table. So you want to make sure it's really thin so it's not going to be too heavy on your baker's twine and skewers. All right, and so I have this small diamond. It's about an inch long, I think. And I'm going to cut out 4 diamonds. So we want to do this thin because we're going to fold this over the twine. So if it's too thick and heavy, it's going to really weigh this down. So we don't want that to happen. So we have our glue, a little bit of water and meringue powder, and you just paint just a little bit of it on. So I'm going to start with one side, and I'm just going to fold it down so the tips meet. I'm going to do it to the other end, and you'll have the chance to move these around a little bit too. And then the last one. So you can gently move the pennants on the string as you see fit. Just give it a little gentle pull to get them situated. All right, and for the last thing, I'm going to just write XOXO on these. I'm going to do it from my side, and then I'll spin the turntable. So the marker I'm using is a food color marker. So it's just food coloring in a felt pen. So I wrote on these after because if I'm squeezing these together, I don't want my fingers to smudge the food coloring. But it is a little bit harder to get that together. So you just have to see what's best for you. So now that we did the banner, it looks really cute. It's almost all done. You could keep it just like this. What I'm going to do is just put a couple poofs on top with some vanilla buttercream. I'm using just a rosette tip, which is a closed-in star tip. Any tip would be fine, I think. So I'm going to put 6 on. So I'm just going to start from the back here. So I'm just doing nice big swirls. So I put some poofs on, and then I will top it off with our Valentine's Day themed sprinkles, just to make it extra cute. Okay, It's really cute. I really like it. So that's the banner pennant cake. So that's how you do these two really cute Valentine's Day cakes. Make sure you check out our Valentine's Day cupcake video, and also stay tuned for more videos of different holiday themed cakes and cupcakes.